Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let's do a quick browse tutorial. But before we continue, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. So to begin, the first thing we are going to be doing is to lay down the hair. We don't want the stubborn hair to be hanging. So to do that, we are going to be using the brows gel from Nikki Signature. You could use any brows gel of your choice. You could use even edge control, but it shouldn't have oil. So we have to lay it down for it not to be hanging and for it to be in place. So after laying it down, the next thing to do is to apply your setting powder. As you can see on the video, at this point I was applying my Mirac setting powder. So you can use any setting powder of your choice. So after applying your setting powder, to make sure every moisture and oil is absorbed, you now use your fluffy brush to dust off the excess setting powder. Make sure you dust it up very well. Then the next thing is to outline the brows, which I use my KR brows pomade and my angle brush. So you need an angle brush and you need a brown brows pomade. So to outline, you begin outlining the beginning, the lower section. Start from the beginning. So when you are getting towards like the turning point, you just tilt downwards. For the upper section, you do the same thing, but now we are not starting from the beginning. We start halfway because we want that section to look natural, right? So you do the same thing as you're outlining and getting towards the end. You just tilt downward. So you repeat the same exercise for both sides of the brows. Begin the lower section from the beginning towards the end. You just tilt downward, and then the upper section again, you start begin halfway because we want that area to look natural. We don't want any harsh line. So to fill in the brows, I'm using my Davis pencil. You could use any pencil of your choice. I love using Davis pencil because it's pigmented and it doesn't break easily. So I use a Davis pencil in the shade 003. So for light skin client, I usually use 018. But for dark skin client, I use 003. It's a darker shade. So you make sure your Davis pencil is well sharpened. When I say sharpen, it should be well sharpened and pointed. You should have like 3 pencils or 4 pencils well sharpened, such that you will not have to waste time in sharpening the other one again, the one you're using, right? So when filling the brows, we are producing tiny hair-like stroke. So we are filling the area with less hair, right? That's what we are doing. If we fill the area with tiny hair-like stroke with less hair. So when we are filling in the brows, the beginning, we don't make it too close. We don't make the hair-like stroke to be too close. We just give a little gap between it, and make sure when you touch one point, you shouldn't repeat again. So after filling in the brows, the next step is to conceal the brows. So usually I use my foundation and a concealer. So I use the foundation, which is like almost the same shade or one shade darker than her skin. So I'm using my flat angle brush and my flat brush. So the foundation will go for the beginning. I conceal the beginning using my foundation, which is one shade darker, such that I want that area to look natural. Then for the rest of the section, to continue again, I use my concealer. So that the concealer I use for this video, for this client, is a spotless concealer. So I use a spotless concealer, which is like 2 shades lighter than her skin. So after concealing, I use my small fluffy angle brush to blend in the excess concealer. We don't want to leave that area messy, so we have to blend in the excess concealer. So the next thing, you repeat the same exercise again for the other section. So after concealing, you will have to go in with your powder from your powder palette, which you are going to look at your powder palette. You look at the same shade as the concealer and the foundation you use for the beginning and the end. You just take and apply on that same. So for the beginning, which you use the darker foundation, you go in with your darker shade of powder, which is exactly like the shade you use to conceal. For the end, you look at the darker shade of your powder, your lighter shade, you apply the rest of the section. So for the upper section, I'm using that same foundation I used for the beginning. You can mix it. So I tried to mix it with a little bit of the concealer because I didn't want it to be looking too dark. So I'm using that same foundation. So I start concealing from the spot where my outline began. Yeah. So I'm using the side of my brush. You could use the tips of the brush. I'm using the sides of my brush. So after concealing, I'm using my fluffy brush again to blend in the concealer or the foundation. So at this point, I place the middle of my beauty sponge on the line on my fluffy brush. Sorry, not beauty sponge. On my fluffy brush, I place the middle of my fluffy brush on the line separating the concealer or the foundation and the rest of my face, such that when I'm blending, it's taking care of the harsh line. You will not find any harsh line at the end of it. So can you see at this point, I'm using the side of my brush to conceal the upper section again. The reason why I use my foundation and the shade I use for the beginning for the lower section is because I don't want any harsh line, right? We don't want a harsh line. We don't want, like, if imagine using a lighter shade of concealer for the upper section, the area will just be looking whitish, like, right? We don't want that. We don't want that messy. So we have to use something that will matches her skin, just like that. So at this point, I was just trying to, can you see the way I place my fluffy brush? As I'm blending, it's taking care of the harsh line. So I start blending from that line, separating that 2 points. So after blending thoroughly and there's no harsh line, I just blend again to make sure everything is in place. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share.